Hello and welcome to MKF 2131 Marketing Decision Analysis. Now, in the last video, we have talked about the AAU matrix. So we have talked about the matrix that's going to be used for awareness, matrix that's going to be used for attitude, and matrix that's going to be used for usage. Then we have discussed a bit on the top of mind awareness, total unprompted brand recall, total prompted brand recall, and so on. And then we also touched on a bit on the purchase intention as a measure of attitude, and also in terms of usage, like for example, how frequent do you use the brand and so on. So there are different types of metrics that you can definitely use for AAU. And also lastly, we're going to talk about satisfaction, which is one of the most widely used metric that when it comes to survey. Every time when you come into restaurant, they ask you how satisfied you are with the meal, how satisfied you are with the cleanliness in the restaurant, how satisfied you are with the waiters, whether they are polite to you, and so on. And the same thing in education system as well. I believe at the end of the completion of the course, you'll be asked to rate how happy you are with the teaching team, how happy you are with the material quality given in the course, and also how much help that you get, and so on. So these are satisfaction basically. And indeed, satisfaction is a leading indicator of purchase intentions and loyalty. And research also shows that there is a strong statistical evidence between customer satisfaction and profitability. Obviously, when we see it will be positively sloped or positive correlation on it. And some research has even concluded that if you drop satisfaction, and it will impact twice as much as your ROI, which is your return on investment, rather than when you increase satisfaction. So what does it mean? It means that the satisfaction are not linear. So if you decrease, then obviously you are not going to get the same decrease as when you increase. So in other way, that they are not linear. This is non-linear. So when you are in the non-linear, at least in this situation, the drop causes more harm as compared to the good. So if you are actually satisfying customers, your ROI might not increase that much, but when you actually decrease satisfaction, then you are in trouble. So that's why it's also my job not to dissatisfy you. And if you look at satisfaction in general, it's performance minus expectation, which is sort of true. So if you take a look at, so let me pull out my pen. So if you see that this is the level of expectation. So this is your expectation. So it could be that when you come into the course, and you will receive a lecture and tutorial in week 1. Okay, so all the courses that you enrolled have a tutorial and lectures in week 1. Let's say this course, I didn't give you any material on week 1, I didn't give you any lectures, there is no tutorial and whatsoever. Okay, let's say, okay, I'm just saying for example. So if you look at that, then obviously your actual might be here, right? So this might be your actual. And these are your expectations. So you have this gap here. So here are some of the expectation, let's say X. And your actual is, let's say, Y. So obviously this gap is what we call dissatisfaction. All right. And when you have a gap of actual is more than expectation, then that will lead to your satisfaction. So you can check out more videos on YouTube right here if you are interested to. So please do watch it. And now we are going to say, how are you going to measure satisfaction? Or which is, in other words, we want to know what is the metric that we can use for satisfaction. Now, first of all, we can also see the customers who are satisfied with your product. Now, this could be a Likert scale. So if you can see this Likert scale right here, right? So it could be anything. So it could be 0 to 10 Likert scale, or it could be just 1 to 5 Likert scale, it doesn't matter. You can use Likert scale. That's the simplest one, and that's probably the most widely used. Or you can also use a sophisticated econometrics model. So you see like American Customer Satisfaction Index. You can check out more in the link here for more information. Then you also have the second metric, which is willingness to recommend. Now, if you are satisfied, that's one thing. But when you say that you are willing to recommend, that's also a next level. Because not only you are satisfied, but you're actually helping the company to spread the good word. And this is what we call the soft loyalty metric, which is you are loyal, you are not only satisfied, but you're also loyal to the company, and you really want the company to prosper because you really benefited out of it. So this is what we call the willingness to recommend. And also a willingness to recommend, it's also in the next video when we talk about NPS or Net Promoter Score, that will be entailing around recommendation. Now lastly, we also looked at willingness to search. So what do you mean by this? So willingness to search is that you really want to stick to that brand, like you never want to change. So say that you like certain brand. Let's say you like Coca-Cola. So you come into the store and you see that there is no Coca-Cola, but there is a Pepsi there. Now you're so loyal to Coca-Cola such that you do not want to switch. You really want to stick with Coca-Cola. So this is what we call willingness to search. Percentage of customers that is willing to search all out such that they can stick to that brand. So let's say if you can come down to 7-Eleven but you pay more, they don't mind because they want to get a Coca-Cola. Or they can go to McDonald's because they know that they can get Coca-Cola from there. That's one thing. So willingness to search is a probability of customers that is willing to search in order for them to not getting the next available brand. So that is what we call a hard loyalty, which is like you are really like crazy about that brand. Well, the next one we're going to talk about is what are some of the challenges that we might encounter when we are doing or we are measuring customer satisfaction. So the first one that we will think about is what we call a respondent bias. Now, what do you mean by this? So you might think about one of the question is, are you happy with David's teaching? It could be a 5-point Likert scale. It doesn't really matter. And you might think about, yeah, I mean, I don't really like this guy because this guy talk a lot. Okay, and this guy looks very boring, so I don't really like his lecture. So you might want to leaning to say no. But then after that, at the same time, you might be getting, I've been doing pretty well in the course. I've been getting good marks, and seriously, I think although his lecture is not good, but I think I'm fine, right? So in the end, you click, yes, I'm happy with David's teaching. Now, what's the problem with that? Now, the problem with any of that is in survey, we're never going to look at your expression. We're never going to look at how serious does this guy actually do his or her survey. We don't know. What we only know is the result that you actually click or you actually choose. So in this case, you choose that, yes, I'm happy with David's teaching. But maybe in fact you are not. So this is what we call a respondent bias, where I might think about of some other factors that influence your decision on this. Now, dissatisfied customers can defect over time. So if you think about, let's say you have 10 customers. Okay. So let's say 7 are unhappy. So means that 3 are happy. Okay, so I'm gonna put yes. Okay. Now let's say now you only have 5 customers. Okay. So out of these, all the 5 that are unhappy ran away because they don't like you. So you left out with 2 unhappy and 3 happy. So if you look at these two, your happiness rating are 30% And now it sort of becomes 60%. So what can you see from here? So this is before and this is after. So what can you see from here? So from here, you're inflating your satisfaction, but in fact, you're retaining the same numbers. In fact, you are even worse because now you have lesser customers and probably lesser profit. So expectation might change over time. So one of the examples that I can think of is aviation. Now in aviation, last time, probably 10 years back or 20 years back, when you want to fly, it's something that is considered as a luxury because you know that it's expensive to fly and there's no such thing as budget airline before then. But now, so there are lots of budget airlines and now they are competing more intensely. And because of that, your expectation might change. So for example, now there is a different choices that you can make. You can have a budget airline, you can have a premium airline. So in each of that, then expectation changes. But previously you don't have that choice. And satisfaction is correlated with some other metrics. So for example, it could be loyalty, it could be service quality and retention. So that's all for the customer satisfaction. So there are only a few slides in here. So what we have learned so far is that we have touched on customer satisfaction, where it says that it is the performance minus the expectation, or the actual service minus the expected service. So obviously, if the performance is much better compared to expected, then you are a happy customer. And if it is vice versa, then you are dissatisfied. Then we talk about some of the metrics that we can use for customer satisfactions. So we have the percentage of customers who are satisfied, we have willingness to recommend and willingness to search. And lastly, we look at all these challenges that you might face whenever you are dealing with customer satisfaction. In the next video, we're going to look at Net Promoter Score. So stay tuned for the last segment of the lectures in week 2.